Jermaine Baker. Now, we mentioned him back in 2020 due to the family criticising the delay in starting an inquiry after he was shot dead by a Metropolitan Police firearms officer in December 2015 during an attempt to break a prisoner from custody. Yes, he was being a naughty boy, but again, as I keep saying, proportionality. Should the man have been killed for breaking someone from prison? Which never actually happened, I might add, because police arrived before they could do it. No, he shouldn't. Generally, you're innocent of a crime until you actually commit that crime, meaning that in some cases you have up until the point you action that crime to pull out. 28-year-old Baker was sat in the front seat of a car when he was shot dead in Wood Green. It was said that an imitation Uzi was found in the rear footwell, but Baker could not have been able to have grabbed it in order to fire or even pretend to fire at the police, so for all intensive purposes, he was unarmed. The firearms officer, only referred to as W80, said at the time that he was acting in self-defence. In 2020, the inquiry had already taken 4 years for Priti Patel to confirm that it would actually take place. The inquiry has now completed, and it found that although there were failings by the Metropolitan Police at almost every stage, the inquiry found the death of Jermaine Baker to have been absolutely lawful. Although I'm not quite sure how that works. Normally if mistakes are made, then it means the end result is based on flawed information, meaning it's wrong. To be fair, I think this was more a case of race rather than anything else. For the authorities anyway. And when I say a case for race, I don't mean he was killed because he was black. I mean, I think this inquiry was an attempt to do what the police keep doing recently, and that's spending their time defending their actions against black folk and minority groups, rather than the actual issues at hand. Mr. Baker was one of 3 men waiting in a stolen Audi to break out inmate Izzet Eren, a senior member of the notorious Tottenham Turks gang. The inquiry heard officers had intelligence, that's a laugh, that the group had been unable to obtain a real gun, but this information was not passed on to the firearms team who confronted the men. Mr. Baker may also have been asleep at the time he was shot, and may have misunderstood contradictory instructions shouted by different armed officers who challenged the men in the Audi, or so the inquiry was told. Wow. Shot in your sleep. Now, I can genuinely see how the firearms police were acting in self-defence. I mean, there's nothing more dangerous than a sleeping man. The inquiry also heard officers failed to consider any possible outcome other than an armed stop, and have not properly assessed the risk posed by Eren's cousin, Ozkan Eren, who was behind the entire breakout of prison plot. The police force also failed to engage with the prison service about Eren's escape risk or tell prison van staff of the planned jailbreak. Failures to keep notes of meetings showed an arrogant, dismissive attitude towards formality and a failure to appreciate the importance of accountability and maintaining an audit trail. Judge Clement Goldstone, QC, said race was not a factor in the shooting, but said that the police failings should serve as a loud wake-up call to the next Metropolitan Police Commissioner. He noted that when the firearms officer shot the father of 2, he had held an honest and genuine belief that Mr. Baker was moving in order to reach for the firearm, even though they hadn't even seen a firearm at this stage, real or otherwise. Margaret Smith, Jermaine Baker's mother, said, "The judge has pointed out numerous, really serious failings by the Met. Running the risk that my son's life would be taken was never justified. I cannot agree with the judge's conclusion that Jermaine did not die as a result of these failures. That is a conclusion I cannot understand. After 7 years of waiting, we deserve more." She said her son was no angel, but he should have gone to prison rather than be shot dead. She had called on the inquiry chairman to consider whether her son being black could have been a factor in him being killed. In his findings, Judge Goldstone said W80's overall credibility as a witness remained largely intact. But detailing the various failures, he said public safety should have been, but was not, the primary objective of the operation. He also described the operation's idea of ridding the streets of North London of lethal firearms as delusional. In a statement, the Metropolitan Police said it had made changes to how its firearms officers operated in London, including through training and supporting officers. A spokeswoman added, "We are always open to improving our capability to tackle the threat of firearms." In other words, yet again, they learn from their mistakes. Now, this culture of telling the public that they will learn from their mistakes and failings, to me, is a complete joke, because we hear the same issues time and time again. I simply wish people would wake up and realise that this "we will learn" crap is nothing but an empty platitude to the public to make it look like that they actually care, whilst in reality, the only thing police care about is protecting themselves.